About 2 years ago, I read A Wizard of Earthsea, and almost immediately jumped onto the Ursula Le Guin bandwagon. Even if the book wasn't one of my favorites of all times, my exact thoughts on her as a writer was she has got to be one of the most incredible writers I've ever read. Her storytelling skills were incredible, her prose was beautiful, and she trusted her readers to a level that's not often seen in modern fantasy. Like, she wasn't always the most exciting writer, but I can say I thoroughly enjoyed every minute of Earthsea. And as I looked more into her, I was pumped that I had so much Ursula Le Guin to read. And then people started hyping me up even more. They said, you think her fantasy is good? Just wait till you read her science fiction. Someone else told me that she is a science fiction writer that just merely dabbles in fantasy. So, needless to say, I made it a goal to finish some of her science fiction books. And I wanted to start with the one I hear the most about personally, which is The Left Hand of Darkness. And I feel like I set this book up for success as much as I could. Like, I didn't know anything about it. I didn't know if I was going into soft science fiction, hard science fiction, science fantasy, or a mix of all the above. All I expected was a great book, convinced from both her fans and then the small experience that I personally had with Earthsea that a writer of her skill was incapable of writing a bad book. But I was wrong. So before I get into the why this book is so bad, why I think this book is such a letdown, I'm going to give a quick summary of the book. A human representative from a federation of planets is on an icy world called Winter, with the goal of convincing them to join their federation. But it isn't easy. The beings on the planet aren't like him. They are sexless for the most part, only taking sexual organs during their mating season, and their customs and cultures are foreign to him and hard for him to assimilate to the culture. The main character spends the story feeling out of place and uncomfortable in this world that is so different from his own. And the success of his mission of getting the planet to join his federation depends on him understanding these people. So, I wanted to start out with the good parts of the book, the parts I actually really enjoyed about The Left Hand of Darkness. And I think it comes down to what captivated me the most about A Wizard of Earthsea. It's the language that she uses and the way she understands how to use language and prose to captivate her audience. But what's more, what we get with this science fiction book is that you see that she has an incredible talent and love for the genre. She loves science fiction and she's great at writing aspects of it. And maybe the best way to say this is, even if I don't think this was a good book, you could tell that she really understands science fiction. The society that she built in this book, being different than humans because they've evolved separately, and yet, so they are human without actually being what we understand as human, was incredible. The realness she brings to the world, her describing life on an ice planet, the adaptations that would have to take place over who knows how many thousands, hundreds of thousands, millions of years, the struggles that take place in living in an icy world, everything she did was really incredible. And I stand by my initial impression from Earthsea that she has a talent for words. But once these two positive aspects of the book are done with, that's when the things start to go wrong with this book. The book itself is terrible. And I don't just mean the plot, but I do think the plot is terrible. It's boring, and that's coming from someone who can handle and enjoys boring books. But the book being bad is much worse than just a bad or boring plot. The exploration of themes that are just merely hinted at the exploration itself is either absent or awful at worst, and then it's poorly done at best. And let me tell you what I mean by using what I think is the perfect analogy of what this book is. There's a piece of artwork called Comedian, where in 2019 an artist duct taped a banana to a wall in an art museum and created a certificate of authenticity. The artist ended up selling 2 versions of this art for $120,000 each, and then donated a third to an art museum for, totally art purposes and not as a tax write-off at all. Not at all. It's because it was art. People surrounded the exhibit and stared and discussed. Op-eds were written about whether or not this was or was not art. Defenders wrote in-depth analysis of why it was art, and I'm sure a lot of comments down below are going to tell me how it is. To me, this book was a banana taped to a wall in an art museum. The book is the art museum, the story was the banana, and the ideas hinted at are people trying to make meaning of a nothing story. And that's not me arguing that this book didn't make people think and discuss or even have an impact on our culture. I think it for sure did. Just like The Comedian did. I mean, The Comedian sold for $120,000. Twice. It is technically art, but it's art I don't enjoy and that I'm honestly not able to appreciate. And that's exactly how I would describe this book's impact on me. The most recent news I saw on The Comedian is that the second one that was sold, of the limited edition of 3, was sold to the cryptocurrency entrepreneur Justin Sun for $6.2 million in 2024. And right afterwards, he ate the banana on stage, comparing it to a crypto asset, saying that the real value is the concept itself. I know a lot of booktubers out there really enjoy this book. I know a lot of people who watch BookTube really enjoy this book, and I do not fault them for it. But for me, the ideas hinted at here were not explored enough for me to do anything with it. And honestly, I can't believe I'm even saying this, but this book makes me understand why some people hate or don't enjoy Book of the New Sun. I disagree. The Book of the New Sun is the greatest book ever written, but now I at least understand. As an author, Gene Wolfe has complete faith in his readers, and honestly, maybe a little bit too much at times. But he has faith in them to explore the things hinted at in his stories, to the point where he doesn't do info dumps at all. He just trusts his readers to think critically about what he writes and the words he uses, and the order he uses them in, to come up with their own conclusions. And I think a lot of people will argue that that's what Le Guin does here. They might say, I'm too simple-minded to see the story Le Guin was telling, or too dumb to explore the philosophy and themes myself, that she doesn't explore more because she trusts her readers to do so. But no, that's, in my opinion, she does not. Gene Wolfe gives you information to work with, a lot of it, and then he lets you discover things for yourself. With Left Hand of Darkness, the substance just isn't there. And what little substance is given, I didn't find interesting. It wasn't explored to a level that made me want to think about it. It wasn't explored to a level that made me want to explore further. And the story itself was so boring that it just made me want to get out of there. If I'm continuing with the art analogy, Gene Wolfe's books are like one of those pictures that are optical illusions, where there's a surface level beauty to the picture, but then like you stare long enough at it or you cross your eyes and a whole nother picture is there underneath the surface. Or it's one of those pictures where you look at it dead on and it shows one painting, and then you look at it from an angle and it shows a completely different painting. But honestly, his work is better than that, because it's all those things wrapped up into one package. The Left Hand of Darkness is the banana on the wall. Maybe she did have some message or concept she was trying to explore, but all I see is a banana. And I think this is a perfect example of where I think just because you have great word building and great prose doesn't mean you can write, it's a good book. It doesn't mean you've written a good book if you've done good world building. This is a perfect example of where interesting ideas, beautiful language doesn't always result in a great story. And I argue that's what happened here with Left Hand of Darkness. Anywho, that's why I ended up hating my time with one of the books cited as one of the most influential and beautiful science fiction novels of all time, written by one of the goats of science fiction herself. And before the comments come flurrying in, yes, I do know that Gene Wolfe loved Le Guin's work. And all I can say about that is that just because I love Gene Wolfe's works doesn't mean I worship him. Doesn't mean I have to agree with everything he agrees with. It doesn't mean I have to like everything he likes. Not going to twist my views just because someone I respect has a view different than mine. And I know BookTube can be a place that values positivity over honesty. I know a lot of people describe BookTube as a place of almost toxic positivity. I can tell you, I loved Earthsea. I hated Left Hand of Darkness. I explained my reasons why. I'm always going to be honest with you guys here. So, and if you have a different opinion of this book, if you think I missed something, let me know in the comments below. Maybe you can convince me that I overlooked something, that I missed something on my original read, and convince me to reread it. And maybe I'll change my mind. But for now, this goes down as probably the worst book I've read outside of Poppy War. Thanks for watching, and don't forget to like and subscribe. We're a small channel, and I'm putting out reviews on lesser known books. And honestly, there's going to be a couple negative videos coming up, and I know people don't like that on here. So like and subscribe to get notified when the next one drops. Thanks again for watching.